What's up, guys? Welcome back. The holiday season is in full swing, and that means you need some side dishes to go with that ham or turkey this year, and I have the perfect one for you. Today, I'll be showing you how to make potatoes au gratin. But before we do that, please take a quick second to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to hit that bell to enable notifications as well. All right, guys, meet me in the kitchen. Let's make it happen. First things first, obviously, we need to start out with some potatoes. Today, I'm using russet potatoes, but you can use Yukon Gold for this recipe as well. Personally, I like to cut the ends off of my potatoes during prep. It makes it a little bit easier to peel for me, and then when we break out the mandolin, we've already got the process started. So just repeat that process for all of your potatoes until they're nice and peeled. Then we're going to clean them up because, as you know, potatoes are root vegetables and they're always pretty dirty. So we're going to add them to a large mixing bowl, cover them with cold water, get in there with our hands, and just make sure that the potatoes are nice and squeaky clean. You want to run your water over the potatoes 2 or 3 times until the water runs clear. Now that we got our potatoes nice and clean, we're going to set those aside and move on to our onion prep. For this, all you want to do is remove the skin from the onion, and then we're going to cut these into little rings. Honestly, guys, it doesn't matter what shape you cut the onions into. I personally like to layer onions in between the potato layers, but that step is optional. However, if you like the flavor of onions, I definitely recommend it. The key here, though, is just to make sure you cut the onion rings really thin like you see right here. That way they cook down and get nice and tender in between those potato layers and add tons of flavor to the situation. And now, my friends, we're moving on to the star of the show, the cheese. I like to use a blend of Havarti and mild cheddar for this recipe, but really you can use whatever cheese you like. Smoked Gouda would be nice here. I also have some parmesan cheese that I'm adding to the mix. Here we have some rosemary, thyme, shallots, and garlic. I'm just going to use these herbs and aromatics to infuse flavor into our cream sauce that we're going to make here in just a second. Now, the difference between scalloped potatoes and potatoes au gratin technically is the use of cheese. If you're using cheese, it's going to be potatoes au gratin, and scalloped potatoes traditionally don't call for cheese. So that's your history lesson for this episode, and now we're moving on to prepping our potatoes. We're going to break out the mandolin. You want to be very careful when you use this. They sell guards for these and cut-resistant gloves, but really, guys, just be careful and protect your fingers. The goal here is to cut these potatoes into equal size rings like you see right here. As always, guys, the specific measurements and ingredients are provided for you in the description box below, so don't forget to check that out. And now, my friends, it's time to get started on our sauce. So into a skillet over medium heat, I'm going in with 3 tablespoons of butter, followed by 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. That's going to effectively make a roux for us, which is going to thicken up our cream sauce. And then we need to season that roux. So we're going to mix that flour in, cook the raw flour taste off for about a minute or 2, and then we're going to go in with all-purpose seasoning and my new baby, which is my hot all-purpose seasoning. Same great flavor as the all-purpose seasoning, but it does have a little cayenne and jalapeno. It's absolutely delicious, guys. If you haven't tried that yet, you can grab that via the link in my description box. There's a discount code for you there as well. Otherwise, just season your roux with whatever you like, a little blend of salt, pepper, garlic, and onion powder. We're also going in with 1 teaspoon of garlic paste and a pinch or 2 of nutmeg. We're going to give that a mix, allow all those flavors to start to come together. You want to cook this for about 2 minutes or so before you add your cream. Speaking of the cream, we're going in with 2 cups of heavy cream here. We're going to bring that to a boil, and then we're going to reduce it down to a simmer. Break out the whisk and make sure your sauce is nice and smooth, smoother than this holiday weekend we're about to have. Let me know in the comments what recipes you guys want to see heading into Christmas and New Year's. Now we're going in with our aromatics and herbs. We got some rosemary, thyme, a half of a shallot, 2 cloves of garlic, and we're just going to allow that to simmer in our sauce and infuse all of that flavor into this cream sauce. It's going to make our potatoes so delicious. I'm going to let that simmer for about 5 or 6 minutes. Just a gentle simmer. You don't want to bring it up to an aggressive boil or anything like that. We're working over medium, maybe medium-high heat at the most. And just scrape the sides and the bottom, make sure nothing's burning. Then you want to taste your sauce. Once you can taste the flavor from the shallots and the rosemary and thyme, you can go ahead and remove that. It's done its job. Thank you for your service. There we go. There's that shallot. We're going to fish that out as well, along with the garlic. As always, guys, taste as you go and adjust the flavor to your preference. If it needs a little bit more seasoning, obviously you want to season as you go. Just make sure you continuously taste and make sure that you get the flavor right where you want it. At this point, you'll notice 2 things about your sauce. 1, it smells absolutely amazing, and 2, it's starting to thicken up nicely, which is what we're looking for. At this point, it's important to go ahead and turn the heat to low. That way we can start adding our cheese. You never want to add cheese to a piping hot sauce because it'll begin to separate. It's also a good idea to add a little bit at a time and just allow that residual heat to melt the cheese nicely. That way your sauce stays nice and smooth. We don't have any lumps or anything like that. Oh man, that's looking good. I can't wait for you guys to try this recipe. Again, another reminder that all the specific measurements and ingredients are provided for you in the description box below, so don't forget to check that out. As I always say, make sure you taste as you go and adjust the flavor to your preference. I just tasted it there and realized it needs a little bit more seasoning, so in goes a little bit more all-purpose seasoning. Again, that's a blend of salt, pepper, garlic, and onion powder. Give that a good mix and taste it again. Once it's right where you want it, you can set that aside. For a little added presentation, I like to use this pie dish for this recipe, but you can use whatever casserole or cast iron skillet that you have at the house. I'm gonna spray it down with a little cooking spray, that way nothing sticks, and then we're going down with a bottom layer of sauce. You can shake your dish around a little bit to make sure that the sauce is evenly distributed at the bottom, and then we're going down with one layer of those potatoes. You want them to overlap a little bit like you see right here, and just repeat that until you have one nice layer at the bottom. Then we're gonna go down with those onions that we diced up earlier. Again, you want the onions to be pretty thin when you do that. You could also chop them up into small pieces. We're gonna season each layer. So we're going down with a little all-purpose seasoning here, or just a little salt and pepper is fine. I'm gonna go down with some grated Parmesan cheese as well, and then a little bit of that shredded cheese from earlier. I like to do a layer of cheese in between each layer of potatoes. This may seem a little bit tedious, guys, but hey, it's Christmas and this dish is fantastic. I can't wait for you guys to try it. On top of that cheese, we're going down with that cream sauce. This is gonna be super rich and creamy and cheesy. Just all things delicious. The absolute perfect potato side dish for the holidays, right before we start our diets, right? And again, just repeat that process for each layer. A little seasoning, a little cheese, little onions, cream sauce, shredded cheese. We're not gonna add shredded cheese to the very top layer because we want the potatoes to get tender, and that's gonna take a little bit of time. So make sure you preheat the oven to 400 degrees. Repeat this process until you've topped your entire casserole dish with the potatoes. I'm using a 9-inch pie dish here, but you can use whatever casserole dish or cast iron skillet you have at the house. The top layer is gonna be a little bit more of that cream sauce. We're gonna spread it on nice and even. Looking for presentation and flavor here today. Oh man, that looks good. I love using this pie dish for this recipe. I like to use it for a couple different things, dips and things like that as well. So this is what we're looking like after about 45 minutes in the oven at 400 degrees. I like to use the toothpick test or the fork test to see if the potatoes are tender enough. Once you see that they're nice and tender, then we can top it with that top layer of shredded cheese. You don't want to do it too early because the cheese will just burn up. So for the final 15 to 20 minutes, we're going to add that top layer of cheese, pop it back into that 400 degree oven just to allow that cheese to get nice and brown, bubbly, and beautiful. You're looking at about an hour total cook time, but it really depends on how thin or thick you slice your potatoes. And this is what we're looking like after that cheese is melted. Say it with me, guys, looking good. Got to go down with a little fresh chopped parsley. You want to let this cool for about 15 to 20 minutes before you cut into it. Oh man, that looks good. I'm ready to plate this up and get us a taste test. Brace yourself for a trademark money shot. Look at the cheese pull, the steam coming off of there. Looks a little too hot to taste, but what the hell? Let's go in and see what we got. Moment of truth. Oh man, that's good. Definitely a fork drop recipe. Give this one a try for the holidays. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to give your boy a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button and the bell to enable notifications. And as always, thank you for your support.